welcome to the Agriculture Federation Expo, and this is first demo of the day. Thanks for coming and sitting down and watching me talk. Just so you know, for the whole show, everything we're doing as samples and demos for today and tomorrow. If you go onto the website, you can see all the recipes, everything we're doing, cooking. If you ever want to have any questions about anything, you can just look it up on the website and print it off and have it and use it at home. So today we're talking about, we're going to make bread and butter pickles, basic pickle. We're going to talk about fermenting cucumbers and in general canning at home, which something I like to do at home. Can make my own pickles, bottle my own blueberries, do my own jams. It is very simple. But there's some key points to it that you're going to want to do for safety and for taste is key. Also, a couple little tricks that we're going to show you on how to make your pickles crispy. It's a key. I don't like soft pickles myself, but I like crunchy pickles. So that's a key one today. And also hygiene, having everything clean, having everything sterilized. So the bread and butter pickles is what we're going to end up with today. Looks very nice on your shelf and tastes delicious and is keep it on your shelf there for months at a time. And then when you open it, put it in the fridge. Cucumbers. The one point with pickling, use the ingredients when it's fresh. Don't wait till you have it for a while and then go, oh, I need to do something with these cucumbers before they go bad. Do it when you got them, when they're at their peak. When they're at their peak, that's going to entrust you to have a good product in the end. So the best trick that I can show you for a crispy pickle is to salt it. I personally have a tendency to over-salt my pickles, and I end up with salty pickles, which I end up liking now, but I do. Once you slice them, the recipe that we're giving you today, you slice them, you toss them in salt, you let them sit in the fridge for 2 hours, which I have some started to demonstrate how much water will come out of the pickle. And when you remove the water from the cucumber, when you can it, it's being replaced with vinegar and your solution. So you're getting flavor coming in, but you're also getting the crunch from the vegetable. That's going to ensure that you have a crunchy pickle opposed to a salty pickle. So cucumbers, one end is connected to the plant, the other end is where the flower is. You need to get rid of the piece. Both ends, usually, I will just remove. Keep those, just take those and get rid of them. That is a spoilage point. That is a point where things can get in, and usually where the flower is especially, will rot before anything else. So disposing of those two pieces is very important. So you can slice this on a little slicer, anything. Just make a consistent size. You don't want really big and really, really small. So I'm just going to slice some cucumber. So this you would do a couple hours ahead so that you can salt them, put them in the fridge, and you will guaranteed a crunchy pickle. Does anyone here do their own pickles or can things at home? You do. Oh, good. You're trying to? That's the best part. Just you practice makes perfect. What kind of pickles do you do? Bread and butter pickles? I do. I was just saying. I'm sure. I do salty pickles. That's my wife. We like the salty pickles, thankfully. Sometimes they're a little too salty, but I still like them. And I also do blueberries and partridge berries. That's pretty standard. The blueberry recipe I do, I'm going to tell you about this while I'm doing this. I do blueberries in blueberry juice without any sugar. So the only thing in the jar is blueberries. So I take half the volume that I have of blueberries. If I have a big bowl, I split it in half. I take half of it, I cook it till it turns to juice, blend it, pass out the skins, then I take that liquid. You'll have enough liquid to cover the rest of your blueberries in the jar, and then boil. Am I jumping in and out? Yeah. boil them and can them, so then when you take them out, the blueberries will still be plump and they're sitting in blueberry juice. So it's a very intensified blueberry flavor, and it's good in smoothies, good on cake. It's good all around. It's a very simple recipe, and there's no sugar added, so you get the natural sweetness. So right now I have cucumbers sliced. I'm going to take my kosher salt, and I'm just going to lightly coat them. So you toss them, and you let them sit. Take this, wrap it, put it in the fridge for 2 hours. Water will come out. You'll be amazed how much water is in a cucumber. Will come out, and that water strain off. Give it a light rinse just to remove any salt particles, and then you'll end up with juice. These I just salted a couple minutes ago, and you see the water coming out of it already. So they shrivel up, but once you pickle them, they plump back up again. So you get, if it shrinks, you'll get shrinkies from the water loss, but then it'll pull in the flavor, all the flavorings that you have of your pickling liquid. So I'm going to add these to them together. So at this point, I'm going to start my pickling brine. So I have my burner here. I'm doing apple cider. I'm doing this just for flavor. Not because apple cider vinegar is better than white vinegar. It's just a matter of personal taste and flavor. So I do 2 parts vinegar to 1 part water. So you do get a very acidic pickle. So we'll get that going in here. I'm going to turn this burner down. There we go. And now I'm going to add my water. Now as this comes up, one thing with canning, especially if you're going to have it long-term on your shelf, is sanitation. Have your jar, like you can reuse jars forever. Your lids, not so much. The rubber will wear out. I usually do them twice, but like really if you want to make sure, use them once. The rings are good forever usually unless they rust. To ensure, like I boil these, then usually we hold them in the oven, turn the oven on at 200 degrees, and just sit them in the oven to stay hot. So then when you go to make your pickle, your jar is already hot, your pickling liquid is hot, and I recommend taking your lids and soak them in hot water so it actually softens the rubber, so here you're guaranteed to get a seal. Now you can do a quick pickle where you just take boiling liquid, pour it over, and close it, and you will get a seal. But that's not going to keep forever. Like you do it properly, you keep pickles for years and years. And you can have something from 2015 and open, and it's going to be great. And no worry of any bacteria or anything living in it. So your jar is hot, your lids are warm and clean, everything is clean and sanitized, your pickling liquid is hot, and you combine it all, and it will guarantee you a proper seal and a compression where you can put it on the shelf in your basement forever. So that's a key point. So my water, my apple cider vinegar and water is starting to come up. I'm going to add sugar. So sugar, a bit of sweetness to combat the sourness, so you have a little bit of sweetness to the pickle. We're adding caraway. We're adding clove. We're adding turmeric. That's key to a bread and butter pickle. It gives it that color. We're adding celery salt. And we're adding mustard seed. Give this a stir. It started, like, once this comes to a boil, I'm not sure if you guys can all see actually what's happening in here. Hopefully you can. This will look like a bread and butter pickle liquid very instantly. And the bay leaf I'm going to keep and put in the jar, just into the jar. So once this comes to a boil, we will be ready to pour it over the top. So I have my sanitized jar, not here on stage, is it coming out ripping hot, but it will be. I have my salted cucumbers that have been salted, and I've drained the water out, been sitting around for a couple hours. I'm going to show you this. This is into the gadget territory, but this one is very useful. This is good, so this one will fit on all sizes of mason jars. It will keep your lid clean. That surface here, you want, especially when you put the lid on, you want to keep that clean. Like, even if you wipe it after you do it, because if there's any salt or pepper or spice on there, you're probably going to have a point where you're not going to get a seal. So this actually works really good, especially if you're doing something like blueberries, something messy. It helps a lot. I make a big enough mess in the kitchen as it is. So we have our pickles in there now, our salted cucumbers. So because we salted the cucumbers, you'll notice in the recipe, there's no more salt anywhere else in it. There's no more salt in the vinegar. The product will be salted on its own. Bay leaf, I put inside. As this is coming up now, I'm going to bring this to a good boil. I'm not sure if you guys can smell this in the arena, but this smells really good. It is vinegary, but I like that too. It's a good smell. I'm also going to add a few other things into my pickle, into my bread and butter pickles. I'm going to add some onions. This is for flavor, and also pickled onions are good. It's a nice surprise when you're getting into the jar. I'll pull them apart, put them in. There we go, we got a boil, turn that off. And I'm going to put red pepper. This is just a nice touch. It's nice if you're putting your bread and butter pickles out on the table to have a few different things in there. It looks beautiful, and in general, you eat with your eyes first before you actually consume it. So things that look nice has a tendency to taste better. So I have my jar in here. I'm just going to give these a stir up. So just for the point, I'm actually going to cut a couple more cucumbers. All my cucumbers are moving across the table. There we go. So we have a nice variety in there now. And our liquid is ready. So this is where this handy comes in again. Also in this set, we got like a pouring spout. This you can use anything, but it looks nice with the set. And also this guy, which we're going to come into in a second. So I'm going to make sure you mix it so nothing is settled and it's all through. And just top it. So now, one of the key points with canning with your liquids is fill it to the bottom. How can I show you this? Fill it to here, not to here. Don't top it. Leave air in there, because in the process when we're boiling, air will leave and then it will close, and that's where you're going to get the seal. If you fill it right to the top of the jar, you won't get a proper seal. And your water that you're boiling in will have a bunch of pickling liquid floating around in it, and you'll get too much water coming in. It makes a mess. You won't get a proper seal. But filling it to the proper height. There we go. So if you can see this, vinegar, it's right at the surface, not all the way up to the jar. So you need some room for the air to leave so it compresses. So now, while that one's there, I'm going to get my pot on. So I have, at home, I use, well, I'll show you this. I have one here. This is what a lot of people have, standard. These work, but you can use, if you have, this is a handy guy. you have these things, you can use any type of pot with a lid, right? So this will hold small jars. It'll hold 2, 4, 6. You turn it over, it'll hold 4 big jars. So it's handy if you don't want to buy one of those. Fits in the bottom of most pots. So that goes in the bottom. You want to have a space between the bottom and your jars. You don't want your jars sitting flat on the bottom of a pot. They'll rattle, they'll break, it won't work as well. So at this point, this is coming up to heat, so I'm going to boil this. I have this that's been sitting in warm water, so it's soft. I put it on. A common mistake people do is want to crank their lids on. Close it, turn it back half. So that it'll shake, it's not going to come loose, because your lid needs to be held in the correct spot, but not jam it on. Like you want to, once the pickle is boiled and comes out, your jars are done, and I'm not sure if any of you, when you pull them out, you lay them on the table and you hear them pop. That's a good sign of luck. That's a great thing to hear, a little ding, ding, ding of all of them popping. That's when you crank it on. Or when they're cooled down and you have the seal already made, crank it on. If you do it before, you'll have a tendency, the air won't escape to make the seal. So put it full, then turn it back quarter or half. So then you put it in here, you put your multiple jars in. I don't have a lot of water in here today, just because I'm not actually going to be canning this one for showing you. But I fill them. I fill the water however much. If you're doing 4 jars, you're going to have less water in here because of the volume. Bring it up to here, like just to the lid. You can go a little higher and submerge them, but having them halfway full isn't going to do it either. Like, have enough water, but don't have them floating, if that makes sense. Once that boils, put a lid on it. It will, and also don't do it till you think it's ready. Time it. Like, you're doing something to preserve it for a long period of time. You want to do, like, make sure, like pickles, I boil them for 20 minutes. You get a proper canning. I know when you're doing meat and different things, there's certainly longer periods of time, so that you make sure you get it. You can also get into doing like pressurized canning. If you're doing moose, bottled moose, you can pressurize, or you can just boil. Like, I think my mother's recipe was boil for 2 hours, just so you make sure you're fully cooking it and it's pasteurized. So this will go and we'll boil this for 20 minutes. We'll take it out. So we're saying 20 minutes has passed now. This guy has saved my fingers a lot of times. They're very useful. Just clamp on. When you have to do a lot, if you're doing a big set, I have a tendency, my rag gets wet, and then I'm burning my fingers, and I drop a jar. And you just put all this work into doing it, and you don't want to drop it. So you pull it out, drop it down. This is the only use I've ever found for this. There's no secondary use. You can't use it for anything else, but it's really useful to have. Yeah, I'm not getting rid of mine anytime soon. So that's the basic bread and butter pickle. It's a good flavor profile that everybody knows. You can use it like Sunday dinner. You can use it on burgers. You can use it anywhere. I love this one. Any questions? If there's ever, I should have said this to me, if you ever have any questions, just shout them out. Like, shout them while you got it in your head. The next thing we're going to talk about is fermenting pickles. So these actually these are just going to bubble away on your countertop. These little guys are very useful for doing this. You can buy these most places, like you buy them at Canadian Tire. They go in a jar, they self-vent because this is going to produce a gas. It's going to bubble away as it's going and developing flavor and acidity from just salt and water. It's going to produce gas, and if you close it in a jar, you're going to pressurize it, and at some point it could break or like pop and fizz. It's like you want to be able to gas it out. It's like brewing beer. You have your little trap on top. That's the same deal. As the pressure builds, this will gas out on its own. So when we do these, a little different. It's the same thing. You want to use fresh ingredients. You want to take the ends off so you're not contaminating anything where you can get spoilage. And these guys we don't slice them thin, we actually score them. Just so the salt will get in it. This is this style of pickle. I just cut that one in half. Fermented vegetables. You can ferment potatoes, you can ferment carrots, you can ferment most types of vegetables, and all you're using is salt and water. So you can see these are open now. This is mainly to show you the way we do this is so that the salt we're using will penetrate inside and will ferment easier. This one we use a lot of chili, green onion, white onion. You can put peppers in here. This is like, if you did it with cabbage, and a lot of spices, you can make kimchi, or you can very simply take cabbage, salt it, water, you let it go, it will turn into sauerkraut. Very, very simple things you can do, very simple ingredients. This pickle will be hard at a certain point, and then at another point it will start to become soft, because this product, it will be ever changing. So this one is spicy, so we're going to put salt. And when I do it, I'm going to make sure the salt is in here, is getting in or around on everything. I'm going to get my onions. Fermenting products is a very old way of preserving vegetables. And it's making it come back because the flavor profile is so complex. It's also like the probiotics, the bacteria in it are usually really, really good for your digestion. So I've got salt, I have some onion, I have pickle, I have my chili, it's a Korean chili powder. This is this one we made this 2 weeks ago so that it was ready for today. So you can try this. This one is spicy. So when we do some samples, I'm going to have the bread and butter pickles, but I'm also going to have the fermented spicy for those who dare. This is what I did last in Grand Falls. I dared people to try it, and we ended up having a lot of people try it and said it wasn't spicy at all. That's what people were saying. So now this I will put into the jar, and we'll pack it in. You'll see that there's not a lot of water, but as it sits, the water will come. So that's just as an example, visual. Yes, you would sterilize them, but you wouldn't need them hot. Like, you wouldn't put the stuff in hot, sterilize it, have them cool, and then use them, right? But you can also ferment in a bucket. Same way, sterilize your buckets and put them in a refrigerated area, or let them sit outside, right? You can go either way. So I'll open up this guy. Any questions? One thing with fermenting, you want to keep your product like